We're not bitching about whether it's right or wrong, constitutional or unconstitutional. We're bitching about the way that you are going about it. It's wrong. The fact that paperwork I've worked on here today goes back in and addresses some of this stuff. This lawyer for the IRS, him and I could ban a case law back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We got pros and cons. We're sovereign. No, you're not. Yes, we are. No, you're not. Yes, you are. No, we're not. We can go back through because the system, the lawyers and the courts have created case laws on both sides of the fence, depending on what side they are on, so they could use these case laws no matter which way they're on. So now when you've got case laws that cover both sides of the fence, you've got a conflict. You've got no right, no wrong, because you got case laws that covers both sides. It depends on who is being charged, whether the defendant is a defendant this time or the defendant is a plaintiff, the United States bringing charges against you. They've got case laws on both sides that justifies both sides of whatever they're doing. And they created this.
And that's called a racket.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
That's called racketeering. That's RICO. This is the point. This is where the issue's coming in. Like I said, it isn't whether the fact that taxes are right or wrong. It is the fact that the way they're collecting is based on fraud. And part of what we're going to get into tonight is what we covered last night, is that a lot of the people with what they're doing, it's like we said, they're in the middle of a forest, and they can't see the forest because the trees are in the way. IRS is not my bailiwick. It's not part of what I do. But because we're being drawn into this, sitting back over the years with what we have discovered, with what we have looked at, there is a third element that's missing out of this thing. Constitution goes in and deals with the fact that under commerce, they have the right to tax. Under international, they have the right to tax. And that is what everybody has ever fought on. Well, I'm not a corporation. Oh, I'm not a foreigner. They missed the third element in this thing, and that is where the problem's coming in. That third element comes under the ability to tax income in the event of a war. That element has been left out of all these arguments. Everybody's going in after corporation. Everybody's going in after the residency, whether I'm an alien, not an alien, citizen, whatever. They never brought in the section that deals with the war for 2 years.
But still, wouldn't they, even if you brought that to the foreground, wouldn't they come back and say, well, we had a right to go in and do this. We needed to go in and do this. They could still defend that there was a reason that they had to do it, so rather than looking at it as they did it so that they could tax the people, they did it for other reasons. I mean, it would still end up being an argument. And the other thing that they do, I was going to mention, why they do this war thing, is because they get to collect on insurance policies on all the military that die.
But see, no one's never made this argument.
Well, the war thing has been fraud. There's no war. It's a corporation commercial Bush agenda, you know, EIA.
All right, this is what we're going to want to get into and elaborate here a little bit. It's what we got into last night, because since 1933, under the War Powers Act, since they invoked this puppy, and they have to invoke it every 2 years, in order to keep it alive and well. And when they do, they keep it under the Trading with the Enemy Act. This is where the criminal charges come in, because if you get into that 1939, it talks about civil charges, civil complaints. IRS is bringing criminal. This is part of the problem here. We're supposed to have civil remedies, civil actions in this, and they're bringing in criminal. Where's the criminals coming in? The criminals coming in under Title 50. under Chapter 3, that's Section 23, under criminal charges where the court has jurisdiction. What they're doing is they're claiming, basically, is because you're not wanting to support the war effort, you have become a traitor, and they're charging you for criminal charges because you don't want to pay your share of the war taxes. As far-fetched as what this sounds, stop and think about what they're doing and where they're getting it from. Not that far-fetched with everything else that we've discovered and how they're running things. This is part of the problem. See, people have never come back in and made the issue of the fraud of how they're collecting the taxes. They've made the issue whether it's constitutional or legal or not. They've never came back in and made the issue of how they're collecting it. The fraud that's behind it.
So that's how they're making it a criminal action. That's what I didn't understand. You just made that very clear. That's how they're making it criminal.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything started out civil.
Thank you, Rod.
This is how they're getting away with it. They're bringing it in under the Trading with the Enemy Act. This is how they're bringing criminal charges against us. And the thing of it is, if they're going to collect taxes for a war effort under the Constitution, see, this is where they're using the Constitution against us. They're using it on this here section, and nobody's ever looked at this. But if they're going to collect taxes for the war effort, then those taxes have to go towards the war effort. It cannot be perpetrated for everything else but what it's being used for. And this is where the fraud's coming in.